Welcome and good evening. Tonight I have a story sent from a security guard who works in the cemetery. As always, if you enjoy, please remember to like and subscribe. But without further ado, let's begin. So there I was, sitting in my creaky old chair staring at the peeling paint on the walls of my grandparents' house. My name's Michael, middle-aged and down on my luck, divorced, drowning in debt, and with a mortgage that seems to grow taller every month. Life wasn't a stroll in the park and I had to find a way to make ends meet. I stumbled upon a job opening for a security guard at the White Angel Sanctuary, the kind of place where folks went to rest in peace. Gary, the employment manager, looked at me like I was a lost puppy. "You're deaf, Michael," he said, scratching his head. "But we got this nifty receiver thing. You'll see sound and visual static lines. It's like magic or some sci-fi stuff." Now, I ain't too fond of conflicts, and being a security guard wasn't exactly my dream job. But desperate times called for desperate measures, and I figured, why not give it a shot? The pay was $25 an hour, which was better than nothing. Gary seemed reluctant though, like he expected me to bail at any moment. Even blurted out that over 90% of the guards quit within the first week, mumbling about scratches on hands, weird noises, and an iconic White Angel statue playing hide and seek every night. But with debts hanging over me like a dark cloud and recent divorce messing with my head, I had little choice. The screening process was stricter than my grandma's secret cookie recipe. Background checks, interviews, and a week-long wait. Somehow, I was the only applicant, and Gary, with a perplexed expression, hired me on the spot. The pay may be decent, but it wasn't my favourite flavour. As I sat there waiting for my first night shift, I couldn't shake the feeling that Gary was spinning tales to scare me away. I mean ghosts and statues playing games. Come on, it was probably a ploy to keep the weak-hearted away. Still, I wasn't one to back down from a challenge, especially when my wallet was empty as my fridge. 3 days later, as the sun dipped below the horizon, I geared up for my shift. The receiver strapped to my chest, I ventured into the eerily silent cemetery. I wasn't one for superstition, but the stories lingered in the back of my mind. To distract myself, I decided to spend the next few days at amusement parks with an online date. Anything to get my mind off this job and its creepy history. As the night settled in and the gravestones cast long shadows, I took a deep breath. My heart pounded a bit faster, but hey, $25 an hour was worth the risk, right? Well, at least, that's what I tried to convince myself as I strolled among the resting souls, ready for whatever the White Angel Sanctuary had in store for me. So there I was, wandering through the cemetery, feeling the weight of the stories about the place. The moon cast an eerie glow on the gravestones, and there it stood in the middle of a clearing, a human-sized White Angel statue, clutching a sword. I swear, its cold, stone eyes seemed to follow me. The creepiness got under my skin, making me uneasy. I glanced at the sound receiver on my chest, hoping it'd show me something normal. As I approached Angel, the static lines on the screen went haywire. My gut twisted and fear slithered up my spine. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Trying to distract myself, I thought about the hot date I had in the amusement park, a bright spot in my otherwise gloomy life. But the fear persisted, gnawing at my thoughts like a persistent rodent. As I continued my patrol, the anxiety intensified. I looked back at the angel statue, and to my shock it was gone, vanished into thin air. Panic set in, and I couldn't wrap my head around what had just happened. Did it move? Was it perhaps stolen? Questions raced through my mind as I fumbled to pull out my phone, texting Gary about the missing angel. Gary's response was far from comforting. "Michael, you must be joking. There's no angel statue in the cemetery. You're probably in the wrong spot." I stared at my phone, disbelief flooding my senses. But I knew what I saw, or at least I thought I did. Feeling a chill down my spine, I decided to lock myself into the security office. The creaky door echoed through the silence as I barricaded myself in, constantly glancing at the sound receiver. The static lines danced unnaturally, and every odd fluctuation sent shivers down my spine. The night dragged on, a never-ending cycle of fear and paranoia. I stayed put until the first light of dawn began to creep over the horizon. Angel's statue was back in its original spot. I rubbed my eyes, convinced I must be hallucinating. Darkness can play tricks on the mind, right? Finishing off my first night shift, I stumbled out of the security office, exhausted and shaken. As the morning light bathed the cemetery, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something otherworldly had transpired. The White Angel Sanctuary held secrets, and I was just beginning to scratch the surface. Little did I know, the job was going to be more than just a way to pay the bills. It was a descent into the unknown, a journey through shadows that would leave me questioning the very fabric of reality. The aftermath of that first night was like a storm inside my head. The idea of quitting the job haunted me, but the reality of finding another gig in my financial mess was like a chasing mirage. So when Gary texted me, asking how my first night went, I put on a brave face, typing out the words of assurance that I might stick around for a bit longer. Gary responded with a thumbs up emoji. Then I couldn't shake the feeling that he was playing with fire, unaware of the monsters lurking in the shadows of the White Angel Sanctuary. As I geared up for the second night, I found myself sitting in the security office, eyes glued to the multitude of camera feeds. A feeble attempt to calm the nerves that had gripped me since the eerie encounter with the missing angel statue. A couple of hours passed and nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Encouraged by the mundane, I decided to venture back into the cemetery, desperately hoping for a quiet night. But fate, well, it had other plans for me. As I stumbled upon the White Angel statue, I felt a knot in my stomach. Instinctively, I checked the sound receiver, and to my relief, there was no erratic static. I sighed, the tension releasing from my shoulders like a heavy burden. Yet my newfound bravery was short-lived. In the distance, beneath the moonlit sky, I spotted a pale humanoid creature with elongated limbs crawling through the cemetery. Panic seized me and I ran as if my life depended on it. The sound receiver buzzed with unnatural static, indicating that the creature might be hot on my heels. I dared not to look back. Breathless and terrified, I reported the encounter to Gary through texts. Silence. No reply. I assumed he was safely tucked away in his bed, far from the nightmarish reality I found myself in. I rushed back to the security office, checking the camera feeds for any signs of the creature, but nothing. It was as if the creature never existed. Paranoia soon took over, gnawing at my sanity. Claw marks on the wooden door of the entrance to my office greeted me, a chilling reminder of the horrors that lurked in the darkness. I made up my mind. It was time to throw in the towel. This job wasn't worth the risk of death. But Gary's response crushed my hopes. You can't quit until you finish the rest of the week's shifts. No work, no pay. Anger surged within me. I argued that the cemetery was no ordinary place that was filled with monsters and statues that moved on their own. Gary dismissed my claims, disappointed that I was just like the others. Reluctantly, I agreed to finish the work, each night weighing heavier on my conscience. As I waited for the next shift, fear and anxiety nestled within me, wondering if this decision would be my biggest regret or my narrow escape from a nightmare. The White Angel Sanctuary had more secrets than I had bargained for, and each passing moment tested the limits of my sanity. In the midst of the unsettling nights at the White Angel Sanctuary, I decided to reach out for help. Financial stress and the eerie encounters in the graveyard had taken a toll on my sanity. I found an old friend on a therapy website, and lucky for me, he offered his psychiatric services for free. Desperation had led me to this point, and I was willing to explore any avenue that might bring some peace of mind. The therapist, an old buddy named Chris, welcomed me into his cosy office. I poured out the details of my nightly struggles, the moving statues, the pale creatures and the constant paranoia that haunted my every step. Chris listened attentively, his face a mix of concern and understanding. After hearing my tale, Chris began asking questions about my daily routine, diet, sleep patterns, hobbies, and the like. He probed into my recent divorce, suggesting that the stress from the ordeal might be contributing to the vivid experiences I believed were happening during my night shifts. The session was long and introspective. Chris, being the friend he was, offered insight and comfort, ultimately suggesting that the hallucinations might stem from a combination of financial stress and the emotional fallout of my divorce. His professional advice was clear: quit the job at the White Angel Sanctuary. However, when I explained my dire financial situation and the lack of job prospects, Chris softened. He understood the complexities of my predicament, offering a compassionate ear rather than a stern directive. It was a relief to have someone comprehend the weight of my choices. After the therapy session, Chris insisted on offering his services for free, a gesture that meant more than the words could express. Grateful, I left his office with a newfound sense of understanding about my mental state. Perhaps my mind had been playing tricks on me, creating illusions fueled by stress and loneliness. In a moment of clarity, I texted Gary, the manager of the White Angel Sanctuary. I apologised for my earlier rash decision to quit, explaining that I would stick around for as long as it took to alleviate my financial woes. Surprisingly, Gary was understanding, acknowledging the challenge I faced. It was a weight off my shoulders and I was mentally preparing for the next night shift. As I waited for the impending darkness, I couldn't help but wonder if my fears had been blown out of proportion. Maybe the White Angel Sanctuary wasn't as haunted as I had first believed. Regardless, the nights ahead loomed, and I braced myself for whatever illusions or realities awaited me in the shadows. As I stepped into the security office for my 5th night shift at the White Angel Sanctuary, I found a strange calm settling within me. The therapy session had provided a semblance of peace, and I went about my usual routine with a renewed determination. I checked the cameras, cleaned the office, documented the shift notes, and completed my daily tasks. The night seemed normal, well, at least for a while. As I ventured into the cemetery, the air hung heavy with an ominous stillness. My sound receiver remained quiet, with no unsettling static lines disrupting the silence. The initial moment of my patrol felt eerily serene, almost mundane, compared to the horrors I'd encountered before. But as I approached the clearing where the White Angel statue stood, my tranquility shattered. The statue appeared to be bleeding from every pore, a grotesque spectacle that sent shivers down my spine. I stared in disbelief as the statue moved, its once serene face contorting into a demonic visage that fixated on me. Panic surged through my veins as I stumbled backwards. Without a second thought, I ran. I sprinted through the cemetery, fear propelling me forward. The White Angel, now transformed into a nightmarish entity, pursued me relentlessly. I zigzagged through the tombstones, desperately trying to distance myself between that and the malevolent creature. After what felt like an eternity, I found an empty tomb and slid inside, my breath caught in my throat. I clutched the sound receiver, watching the static lines grow higher and higher with each passing second. The demonic angel patrolled the cemetery, as if searching for me. Frozen with fear, I dared not move, praying that the creature would overlook my hiding place. 10 agonizing minutes later, I seized an opportunity. The angel turned away and I slipped out of the tomb, moving stealthily towards the exit. As I ran from the cemetery, I dared not look back, the haunting image of the bloodied angel etched into my memory. Once I was a safe distance away, I fumbled for my phone, hands trembling. I explained the horrifying encounter to Gary over text. At that moment, the money meant nothing. My life was at stake. Gary, surprisingly understanding, acknowledged my decision to quit. In the weeks that followed, I found myself haunted by this traumatic experience. Nightmares plagued my sleep, and the mere thought of returning to the graveyard sent shivers down my spine. Desperation led me to a day job at a grocery store, offering lower pay, but I didn't care. My primary goal was to distance myself from the horrors of the White Angel Sanctuary. As I wandered through my new routine, the questions lingered in my mind. What would happen to the unsuspecting souls who took on the night shift at the ominous cemetery? The shadows held secrets that I hoped others would never have to uncover. The White Angel Sanctuary was a place where nightmares bled into reality, and I couldn't shake the feeling that its malevolent presence would continue to haunt the unsuspecting guards who dared to tread in its darkened paths. Thank you all for listening, and I appreciate you taking the time to get this far. As always, if you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, and if you're feeling extra cheeky, maybe subscribe. And with that said, I'll catch you all in the next one. Thank you.